monsters in his dreams that will not go away. The enemy is everywhere, and there is no place to hide. And the friends he left behind keep calling out his name. Another soldier died today. Another mother cried today. Far from the battlefield, 22 every day. The demons in his mind and fear his only friend. The battles in his head only a soldier understands. And the horrors of war are forever without end. Another soldier died today. Another mother cried today. Far from the battlefield, 22 every day. 22 soldiers will die today, die by suicide. 22 soldiers every day die by suicide. 22 every day. Oh no. Another soldier died today. Another mother cried today. Far from the battlefield, 22 every day. 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 22 every day.
You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Military Monday show that we air the first Monday of every month. We're your hosts, Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team on the Love Your Park store and publishers of Big Blend magazines. And we also have Mike Guardia, historian, military historian, and author, sitting in as guest co-host. And it's not his first time. He's been doing this with us for a while, so we love having him on board with us.
Mm-hmm.
You just heard Jim Pidgeon's song 22 Every Day, and we're excited to have him join us on the show. Nancy and I had the honor of meeting him, I think 2 weeks ago. We can't keep track of time,
Something
and he wants
like
to. In Tulare, California, we went to a Vietnam War Veterans Memorial that has two military aircraft right off of Highway 99 that goes through Central California from Bakersfield on up. And it's something that you see. And as we were driving into Tulare, we wanted to tell Dawnette Silva Carter, our friend who runs the chamber, the Tulare Chamber, like, we need to go and photograph this park. How do we get there? And next thing you know, she said, no, you're meeting Jim at the Bombers. We thought it was this restaurant that has an airplane. It's a restaurant in an airplane. It isn't a bomber, I suppose. But anyway, we got to meet Jim, and he's here. Jim, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
Oh,
good.
Doing good. So glad to have you on the show.
My pleasure.
There's three aircraft in Tulare. One is a restaurant, right? I think that was a commercial plane. That's a commercial plane, and that interview's coming later. But then the other two, these were all aircraft, and they're interesting. I was reading up even more about them. But this is something, all that's both aircraft are protected through AMVETs, right, in regards to maintenance?
Yes. Yes, AMVETs post 56. Yes.
Okay, and you AMVETs. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. First, meet Mike. Mike, meet Jim. I guess I'm
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Mike, pleasure to meet you. I'm well. How about you?
I am doing very well. Likewise, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, I'm glad you both are on the show together. This is so cool. Jim, we've been talking about Vietnam. We've been talking about the Gulf War, and you served in Vietnam. And this is something we think about, and it's something that we've watched, these different wars. And just like we were talking about with Mike earlier, going from Vietnam to suddenly the Gulf War is quite a transition. But you served in Vietnam. And so tell us about it. You're a U.S. Navy. Now, Mike is U.S. Army. Are you okay with that?
I'm fine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
I just say.
Yes,
don't talk about the football game.
I was just going to say, isn't there the Army-Navy football game?
No comment.
Oh. Okay. No, but you served on the USS Kitty Hawk. This isn't the Wright's plane, right? As a flight deck troubleshooter during Vietnam. So for those of us like Nancy and I, we need a little education. What is the flight deck troubleshooter?
Well, first off, I'd like to say I never touched foot in country, and I was always on the Tonkin Gulf out there. So I never really felt myself as I was actually physically a combat Vietnam veteran, but that's what they give you. I was a flight deck troubleshooter, and my job is the last job to check my airplane before it leaves the flight deck and give thumbs up to the launching crew to make sure it's ready to fly. And we're the first ones off and the last ones back.
Okay.
We were up north off Hainan Island.
So you're taking care of the plane. So then when you think about where we met you with the two pieces of historic aircraft, you understand the importance of every piece of those planes.
Yes, basically, yes.
Yeah. I mean, because that's important. I mean, so because now does that not tie back to Hal Moore, Mike, about aircraft being an important piece of whether it's helicopter or a plane, right? Being an important piece of Vietnam.
It sure does. I mean, if you're not talking about the Huey helicopters, then you're talking about the fast movers who provide close air support. So very, very important piece of the picture.
And then did it go more to tanks later, or are we still on, or both?
Well, tanks were pretty much always present in Vietnam, but they started off in pretty small numbers. It wasn't really until the second or third year of combat operations there that in a lot of the feedback from commanders on the ground, were able to convince the high command, yes, we do need tanks to help us in our tactical missions, and yes, tanks can in fact operate within the jungles in Vietnam.
Wow. Did you ever do any work on tanks, Jim?
No, never.
Wow, two different. Yeah, one's in the sky, one's not. Yeah. So Jim, let's take a look at what you're doing with AMVETs. And I just always like to think that there's going to be someone in the audience that has never heard of something, and AMVETs maybe they haven't. And I know we've got a lot of veterans and military military family that listen to the show, but also people that maybe just want to know more and what they can do to help. AMVETs, tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you also have served over 1,500 military honor services as a flag holder and presenter. So I know you're also doing a lot of funerals and those kind of, I would say, celebrations of life and honors, But AMVETs, what is that, an organization that's separate from the military, or is it a nonprofit?
Yeah, they're veteran service organizations. They really call them the Big Four: American Legion, DAV, VFW, AMVETs. And there's a couple other smaller versions, but that's all our job. Our main job is to make sure that our veterans who have been injured in combat or injured in service, our number one priority is to make sure we can get them some help to navigate the many piles of paperwork going through the VA. And that's our number one priority.
And through a lot of the shows that we've done, I know when we met, we were talking about one of the shows we did in American Legion in California in Julian. We were talking about PTSD. We covered a lot of ground in that show, and we had Wounded Warriors on the show. We had the organization. There was a lot of different focuses on that, and one of the things a guest was saying at the time, saying that there are actually a lot of services for veterans, but a lot of times the veterans don't know that those services are there. Is that part of what AMVETs helps with? Is that connectivity?
Yes, and that's very correct. I still find people today. I can talk to people right now, veterans who weren't even aware they had VA ability, capabilities. If they didn't come back shot, say, but they still have other problems. They could be suffering from PTS and a whole litany of stuff, and a lot of them never even knew. And we can get them back that money. Our service officers can go back and fight the VA for that and give it back from the day they were discharged, or when they had that injury, or when they had that problem. So that's pretty exciting when that happens, and it's a tough battle. You can ask any veteran, and it's been tough dealing with the VA over the years. Getting better, better.
Well, it's thanks to people like you who stand up and create some awareness, because I was looking that you've also worked with the AMVETs Thrift Program, and also you've helped in regards to helping homeless veterans and their families. So this branches out even further. So it's not just the medical side. It's about actually being able to move forward and get housing.
Yes, when I was the head of the service department here at Service Foundation, Department of California, that's when I first got started with the Welcome Home program, and the VASH HUD program with the VA voucher program, and we actually housed well over 1,500 veterans in apartments and their families here in California now. As of the last report I got was December of 2021. So we're doing that every day. We supply them with all the cooking needs, utensils, beds, mattresses, blankets, and service. We visit them and make sure they're doing fine. So that's a big job for us. The Welcome Home program was the first one of its kind, and I have to thank Dr. Chuck Kissel. He was the main guy that really got that started for us, and he's a veteran too. We flew back to Washington, D.C. and spent 2 weeks back there going through their training program with the lawyers, so we could go to these certain committees and go to the VA and talk to all the people, make sure I knew the backgrounds of who the people I were talking in the certain committees. Say, for instance, if I knew that they had a son who was a veteran who was injured, or if he had a daughter or whatever, and you get that personal touch, and we had some great success. We're really proud of the work we did.
So Nancy talked about politics and military just earlier. I know she'll get emails on it. And listen, it all happens. It's a reality. But that is that part of the thing is, going to the representatives and saying, hey, you need to know this, like ringing that bell, right? Yeah. And that seems to be something that you've got a big bell, and you seem to never stop ringing it, which is good. We applaud that.
Well, I can tell you, we have to be apolitical. I don't care who's in the presidency. I was fortunate to meet Obama several times, and I've met Vice President Biden and the Donald Trump. We're apolitical. He's still the commander-in-chief. Who's ever in that president's office, we're going to work with him. Absolutely. And there's no politics involved.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, sometimes politics is the worst enemy. They're there to serve our country. I'm going to leave it right there.
Yeah. And it's up to us to communicate. And I think that's important. Like what you're saying, it's apolitical. It is an actual, you don't serve depending on what party you're on. Like, what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, Progressive, Green Party, Independent Party. I don't care what party you're in.
No.
If you're serving the country, you're serving the country, right? And I think that's something it is important to bring up, because I think right now there are times in our country that it does get on that little front. I mean, everything's getting, yelled at. And one thing we cannot yell at is those, are people that are out there on the front lines and serving, and not just on the front lines, the families. There's, things that are going on in our country to help those on the front lines. So to me, it's just, that's my personal opinion. We should see what can we all do to help each other and help you, you know what I mean, who are out there doing it. That's it. So I think, what you're doing is amazing. I know you've really worked hard. You've got medals and awards over it. But AMVETs, is there something we can do as a general public and citizens of this country, and to step up and do more?
Absolutely. It's like my phrase is, we can all make a difference on that 22 everyday push-up challenge. Everybody needs to be liking and sharing that. I think today was the 1,844 or something like that, consecutive push-ups I do. And we're fortunate to have hundreds and hundreds of people all over the country and the world that have joined us, some pretty famous artists. And it's just been very uplifting. It's The Rock, absolutely.
The Rock.
he can bang them out.
He could do
Jason Statham. I don't know if you know who he is. Jason Statham can really bang them out real quickly. I'm 70 years old, and I can do push-ups. And when we started this thing, this group of us, there's 5 guys, they said, "Hey, Pidgeon, you're in pretty good shape. Why don't you do 22 sit-ups every day?" I said, "Sit-ups? Have you ever tried to do sit-ups? I'm 70 years old. I'm going to do push-ups." So I've been the push-up guy. My wife does the.
Do you think push-ups are easier than sit-ups?
I do. I've done so many.
You do?
It's just kind of been my deal. I've been push-ups and plank guy, for 30 years.
See, I got into planking years ago, and I think that's kind of cool, the stretching part now, and because it's meditative to me. But okay, the setup, because Nancy and I were talking about this, and listen, we've been traveling like hardcore this last month, and in Tulare County where we were, listen, we still have cookies that we brought back. Like, Donette, those Portuguese bakeries in Tulare County, and the Tulare Portuguese bakery there is dangerous as all heck.
We have to go to 44.
And I told Nancy, when we were driving from Missouri to Wisconsin last night, and I told Nancy, Jim's coming on the show, Mike's there, I think I need to do this challenge, and I don't even know where to begin because I feel like I'm just going to fall down because it is, we hike and everything, but push-ups.
It's not the same.
For women, like, where do we start? And, where do we, anybody... Mike, got any help? Where do I start so I don't hurt myself? Because I'll do it. I don't think I'll film it, but and no one needs to see that. But I'll do it. I just need help so I don't hurt.
Yeah, sure. If you actually start with doing push-ups on your knees, those actually help. You just want to try and get about a 45-degree angle from where your knees make contact throughout the base of your spine. And if you can, I don't know if you've seen them on TV or not, but they sell these push-up discs where they're like these little handles that you grab onto, and as you do the downward motion of the push-up, the disc rotates so that you're actually working more muscles aside from your chest and your shoulders. You're working your abs, you're working your obliques. Very, very helpful. So yeah, if you start off with maybe reps of 5 or 10 and just pretty much build your way up doing that, you'll be knocking out 50 push-ups in one sitting before you know it.
He said the abs, Nancy. He knows. He knows.
But Lisa, I told you earlier today, I said to her, I was taught in phys ed in high school, for women, they said women shouldn't do real push-ups. They should do the knees, like on your hands and knees. So, but that was back then. Not that I'm that old, but that's what they said. So, and then there's push-ups that you can do standing up and push off against the wall.
Does that count, Jim?
Sure, absolutely. Anywhere you can do it. My wife is an exercise guru. And she does pull-ups like a man, not the reverse hands, pull them straight up. And she's a push-up, she's a set-up gal, plank, does all that stuff. So, yeah, it can be done. It can be done.
We should have met her when we were there instead of going to the bakery. Is that what?
Well, I'm glad Mike stepped in and helped me out there. I would have had some trouble.
Listen. I think this is cool. I'm going to do it. So we have to do 20. So let's just get this straight. 22 push-ups a day. For how long?
Uh-huh.
For
Forever.
Until you stop. Let's make a challenge. Let's do till you do 22,000 of them. That's going to take you about 6.5 years. I'm about less than a year away.
So when we're on our long road trips and I get out at a rest area with all the truckers and get down on my hands and knees at a picnic spot and do this,
I do
you
not
guys will know.
recommend that.
I'm going to tell you it's going to happen. But that's why I was telling Nancy last night. We're at a picnic spot. I'm like, what are we going to do when this happens? And then she's like, well, just do it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it, right? So do it. Because this is what started this whole conversation. We were having our dinner in a rest area, and there was a trucker.
Lisa, you're only doing that. No, you're doing that because we saw a trucker do push-ups.
Yes,
earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and he was doing, and we're like, "Is it 22?" And we're like, "No, he's past 22."
No, he was hauling, and I'm like, "Well, if he can do it, why can't I do it?"
Because he's practiced.
Okay, well, I'm going to do it.
Hey guys,
I'm going to do it.
Just go on my webpage. Go on my Facebook page, Jim Pidgeon, on Facebook, and you'll see all the followers that follow me every morning. If I don't do them on time, and I generally get here in my studio about 6 a.m., so I try to get them out early. If I don't get them out until like 8, somebody will say, "Hey, what happened, Pidgeon? You break an arm or what? Have a heart attack?" There's a lot of people out there that we're sharing this with, and it's really rewarding. And we've had some ups and downs.
Well, I think it's important.
We've had some errors, you know.
And your song 22. By the way, amazing song. Amazing. That. You're a great musician and songwriter. Over 200 songs? Was I reading that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I got 238. I've done 14 since March the 1st of 2021. And my hottest song right now is called Silver Spoons and Grandpa Cried. So I'd be glad to send you guys both of those. Don't blast it out on this show or I'll be in trouble with my producer. Those are all back in Nashville right now, and there's several artists that are interested in them. So we'll just have to see how that goes. It's quite a process.
You got to keep us. Yeah, you got to come on our music shows. This is cool. I love this. I love this because when I listened to it, I was like, dang, you really are good. And I love it. I love it. It's just you have a way of storytelling.
I think I'm gonna film Lisa doing 22 push-ups and put it online.
No, Perfect. You're not. No one's going to see that. No, that will not inspire anybody. But I will do it. And listen, our pink sock monkey Priscilla, our travel mascot, will be there with me. She will be doing them too. No, I'm going to do it. You have my oath and honor and word, and I'm doing it.
I'm going to film it.
I'm going to do it. I'll just post every day that I did it, and I will do it. And if I have to do it in a rest area in front of truckers, I will do it.
Oh, my gosh. It's going to be fun. I'm filming.
No.
Outstanding.
I will. I will do it. In the middle of Yosemite or whatever national park we're in. Who doesn't want to do push-ups in a national park? I mean, come on. If you're going to have inspiration, just do it there. Sequoia National Park, your backyard, So this is interesting. So let's do some connection here. Tulare County seems to be probably one of the most patriotic areas we have visited over the years. And we've been covering the area for, I'd say, about 10, 15 years. Don't count me on it, but for a very long time. And very patriotic. Porterville, you've got the All-American Highway, the Veterans Day parades, just even stories we've shared over the years of when someone has come home, of the communities, they've passed the community, passed or not passed actually, coming together when someone has come home. It just seems that the area is really, really honors their military, and all the way through to the big trees in Sequoia National Park that we talked about, Mike Guardia, General Sherman, General Grant trees. So it seems that there's something going on in the area. Jim, what do you think it is? Because you can go to areas that there's a lot of veterans and you don't hear that much about them until you start just digging in, as we kind of do.
I think from Tulare we have the big naval base here really close.
Mm-hmm.
And at one time, this AMVETS Post 56 was the largest post in the entire nation. That meant we had well over 3,500 members. That's more than the city of Los Angeles has. We were giants. Well, we're not so much anymore. We're not that. But we're still very active with the full military honors, and I did 2 today, like I said. And it's just we just love it, and we're going to keep doing it until we can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mike, weren't you kind of out there? You were out in the desert, though, in California, right? In Edwards area?
For a little bit, yeah. So I did a small rotation to Fort Irwin, which is out in the Mojave Desert there. That's where the National Training Center is. Yeah, I had the opportunity to attend what's called their Op4 Academy, which is basically a crash course to learn how our enemies fight so you can play mock aggressors against any unit that comes out there in the field. So.
Dang. You know what? I think I told you this. One of our Chuck Kaplinger, we met him and his wife Hobie. Hoagie is an actor, and she was in 29 Palms would be an actor in like whatever training would happen. Like she would run and they would shoot at her and whatever, kind of thing. I don't know. You know what I mean? In training, not really shoot her, But she did that kind of like mock battle. I don't know. But it's interesting, what happens out in the desert. But that's interesting about Tulare. With the aircraft thing, to me, Jim, is really interesting too. It seems that it's like I know Yuma, Arizona, Tucson is really good on aircraft, but Tulare, that airfield where the 2 planes were that you showed us, that seemed to play a bit in World War II too, as well, I should say.
Yes, absolutely. We actually had an Army Air Corps training center here in Tulare, California, and many pilots trained here at Mefford Field, and that was kind of why they wanted to put the B-17 there. And that B-17 was flown here in the early 60s and actually just landed out on a county road. And they taxied it to several different locations now. This is the 3rd one. So it was quite a process back in the day. So that plane was airworthy when it got here.
Wow.
And it's like a loaner, so to speak, from the Air Force to us. There's not very many more static display B-17s out there anymore. There was plenty of them. Now, when Vietnam was over in 1975 or so, when we started, anybody could get an F-4, pretty much if you're in the VSO business. So there's a lot of F-4s around. Great airplane. I mean, those things go Mach 2.2. They could take off a carrier and go up, just a few feet off the end of the ship and go straight up. Those things were amazing. Very, very powerful. A lot of firepower.
So that was the B-17. That was Preston's Pride.
Yeah, that's Preston's Pride. Yes.
Okay. So this was named after a person.
Yeah. Yes.
A general.
Yes. That was a pilot. Yes. And he actually trained here at Mefford Field.
Wow.
Trained a lot of pilots here to fly.
So is that kind of similar to what happened in Louisiana because of the airfields out there? I know Mike have talked about this a bit. Like I still need to dig into what's going on and what went on in Louisiana. There's a lot that's gone down in Louisiana. It's a cool place. It's one of our favorite places. But the Louisiana maneuver in World War II was a big deal too. And I don't know if they were just trying to get different terrains but like the one airfield that we went to, International Airport, was Alexandria, and they have all these fighter planes out with like these big shark smiley faces on them, and you know what I mean? Sorry, we're not military listening to this podcast, but we're trying to learn. So you go out there and it's like, oh my gosh, you got to think about getting in those planes. It's a little different than now, but they learned out there. So is that the same kind of thing that was going on over at Mefford Field?
Yes, absolutely. The B-17s flew 290,000 missions in World War II alone.
Wow.
And, over 45,000 of those crews were wounded or killed. And they actually served in all four big wars all over the world. They're the only plane to do that in recent history. You know, they were in the Aleutians in the South Pacific, Africa, Europe, the Mediterranean. You know,
wow.
We even put them on board the aircraft carrier and flew them over there to attack Japan with them. You know, not with the not with the B-17s, but I mean that was a rate of some of those other airplanes that the twin engine jobs did that. Just an amazing group of people and men and women in those days. It was their sacrifice was tremendous. They saved the world for us.
So when we talk about Rosie the Riveter and the Riveters at that time, and that's not far from up the road, was it Richmond, California? I think it's Richmond, where, you know, there's the Rosie Riveter National Monument. I'm going to get the names a little muddled here, but it's up there by the Chicago Naval Base, Port Chicago Naval Base. We haven't physically been there yet, but it's been on our radar to do. But were the women working on like the B-17 or the aircraft at that time?
Oh yes, back in those days. My mom was a Rosie River. I was born in Long Beach, California, and during the war, she was a Rosie Riveter, working on airplane lines down in the Los Angeles area.
Wow.
She was very proud of that. We were very proud of her.
Wow. So what's that like, you know, as a family? So, you know, your mom's doing that. Did she tell you what she was doing, like as a kid growing up, hearing stories about what she was working on while you're hearing about the men fighting?
No, she would definitely tell her story. She was very proud of it, and we were very proud of her too.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Wow. It's amazing. So, Mike, the F-14s, 15s, did they come after? Refresh me on that. They come after, right? Because I remember Russia and Iran and Iraq getting hold of those planes too. So this comes after.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm being a good student here. I'm learning. So the B-17s were the big bombers. Okay, so let's move to the other plane that we saw there, which is the McDonnell Douglas GF-4C Phantom II. Did I get that right, Jim?
Pretty close. Yeah, that's a Phantom. Yes. They're twin engine General Electric J79 engines with afterburner. They're a very powerful plane in their day. Now, of course, they can't compete now, but they were many thought were probably the most deadliest plane in the skies in Vietnam in its day.
Wow.
So who creates these planes? You know, that's what I always think about. Who creates them?
Far above my pay grade. Guys and gals are far above my pay grade.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, in your writings, do you ever follow upon who actually creates, or is it like like who created Toyota RAV4, our car? You know, who created it? Or is it like a company that does it?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of moving pieces, and there are actually quite a lot of individuals involved in it. Normally how some of these airplanes start is that, there's a memo that is put out through the Pentagon of a particular defense requirement. Someone who is many echelons above my pay grade, as well decides, the current fleet of fighters or, the current fleet of tanks we have or whatever is just not sufficient to keep pace with whatever projected threats we might have on the horizon for like the next 10 or 15 years. So what we're going to do is we are going to issue this special needs requirement. We're going to get the Pentagon to rubber stamp it, and then we're going to put out a call for designs to all of the major like aerospace or defense contractors. So, they go knocking on the doors of like Boeing and Grumman and McDonnell Douglas and Northrop, and they say, okay, guys, here's what we need. We want a plane that can do X, Y, and Z. Put all your best and brightest minds from, your engineering departments and your design team to bring us a prototype. And then, those design teams in there will say, okay, well, this is what they want. Here's what's worked for us in the past. Let's put all of our good minds together to get a design on the table. We'll get a prototype, and then they deliver their prototypes to, all of the military's testing evaluators, and they say, okay, here's what our machine can do, and it costs X amount of millions of dollars to build and to field. So here's a test pilot to go along with it. We're going to evaluate it on all these trials, and after all the trials are done, they make a bunch of different considerations to include who the lowest bidder is. and they say, okay, well, what's the best fighter we can get for the most cost-effective return on our investment, and something that we think is going to be able to outclass any peer threats in the sky. And yeah, that's pretty much how they came up with, all of the great planes that we know and love, like the F-4 Phantom, F-14, F-15, stuff like that.
Wow, it's a process. This is a process. Yeah. Speaking of processes, I want to go to Jim again. Jim, with AMVETs and everything that you're doing, the 22 Everyday Push-Up Challenge, when someone is at home realizing there's a situation or something they want changed, in regards to a veteran, something in the military, or something they want to do, what would you say? How do you start to communicate to Congress or to your local leader or whatever it is? Because sometimes that's the block about getting something achieved, is that first step.
Yeah, that's the tough part, and that's where we have the 22 Everyday wristbands. And has a crisis hotline on there. It's 1-800-273-8255, press 1. And there's always somebody there to talk to you. Now there's several other big hotlines that are going out. We just had a new one, a 3-digit one. It's they're working with that now. But that's very important. We need to do all of that we possibly can. And we have service officers, and those phones and stuff are manned at all times. And then there's been problems with them too, of course. But it's very important that we address anybody who calls you and talks to you on the phone, and get some help to them right away. I shot on this earlier that I had one fail on me. It was on day 348. I get a thing on my Facebook page, and it says, Commander Pidgeon, I'm going to be your number one today, and that's all he said. Come to find out, it was a young Iraqi veteran, and he committed suicide in his car outside of his house while his with his wife and his parents and his 2 kids were living inside. So those tragedies, just keep me going. I'm going to keep doing these till I can't do them anymore. We're too good a country to let this happen to the brave men and women who are serving us.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
I agree. And what do you think we can do more as a country, as I'm not being political, as a government to create more? Or we were talking about there are plans out there for veterans, but there are more that can be done, more programs that should be added.
Oh, I'm sure there is. There's all different types of programs. They have equine and all types of events, hunting, fishing trips, where they take the veterans. The equine ones have been very, very successful. We have one right here locally. And there's other ones. There's archery. We have an archer who has one arm and one leg, and he teaches disabled veterans how to shoot. He wasn't injured in combat. This was a childhood accident. And his name is Jeff Fabry. He ended up winning the Olympics 2 times in a row, then Paralympics. He is a great guy to get together and take vets hunting. And we have sources where we round them up and get some of those funny-looking wheelchairs. You have the tracks on them so they can, go across out in the woods and in the forest and do hunting. We have those types of programs. Those are great. Yes.
Christy Wood, our friend, has been doing a fundraiser. She's at Wood and Horse out in 3 Rivers. She does trail rides, and she's a world champion horse trainer, and she's been raising funds to get those all-terrain wheelchairs out there for veterans, because it's important, because they're used to, think about it, you're used to being out in the woods, and you want to be able to still go out there. And I know that if I wasn't able to go out in nature in the woods, it would freak me out. No. So I think that's very important. So there are so many programs. Mike, anything you would like to see happen for veterans?
Oh, gosh, what wouldn't I like to see happen for veterans? I really would just like for every veteran who has been coming back, from these conflicts over the past 20 years now, I really just want to see them get the help and the support that they need. there are just a variety of programs out there. There are as many programs out there as the day is long, and I think that the top percentage of programs that are out there are Jim's program with AMVETs, and if they can be made aware of the services that are available to them and the lengths that their advocates will go to in order to see that they get the help they need. I really think that that'll go a long way to ensuring that we don't lose that we don't lose any more of our incoming veterans, because I think it's just an unspeakable tragedy to have a young man or a young woman go off and fight for their country and survive all the horrors of combat just to come home and tragically die as a function of the demons that they're not able to get help with.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest problems is not knowing what programs are out there. There's so much stuff on the internet, so much stuff in mainstream media, and it's all doom and gloom, or it's funny, or it's this, or it's that. But it's rarely about where you can get help.
That's what I think.
I would love to see a major change in major media about where you can get help.
Yeah, I'm going to create a list. Jim, can you help? Do you have a list of links that you can send me that we can put up on our site?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but my father committed suicide. My father was not a veteran. When I came back in 1975, my father shot himself with a $19 .22 rifle he bought from Kmart. And I always hear about, well, how about those signs? Didn't you see the signs coming? My whole family, no, we didn't see anything, and I was mad. I was mad at my father for 25 years. I was mad as hell. Why did you do that? He was a union man and lost all his union benefits. My mother moved in with me, and we took care of my mother. It was just a tragedy. And then one day I woke up right about the time I wrote 22 every day, and I thought, I need to be helping these people. I missed some, but we need to get as many as we can from now on out.
I have to say, I think there's a lot of stressors in the world. There's combat, there's this and there's that, but financial stress seems to be at the top of the game, and it seems to be worse for people than like what you would think. You would think that going to war was worse, but the financial stress that people go through in this country and probably around the world seems to infiltrate their minds and souls and hearts a lot faster than it should. And in the military, you're moving so many times. And when we lived in 29 Palms, there were, men and women that were on one tour after the other. And I think Jim, we talked about that one weekend we heard 6 shots and 6 people died in one weekend. And also the domestic abuse. And, because it's trauma, no matter what. And when soldiers are sent over, men and women, I'm talking about men and women each time, are sent over and on multiple tours without much of a break, the family unit suffers. And that breakdown, it could be the same thing in a family that, someone's off to business and, and they don't see each other. There's a breakdown in communication, definitely. And I think that it's important that we look at the families. I think it's important that we look at the family unit and help and support every person and part of it. And, it doesn't mean that you have to go around thanking every veteran. I think you should, but it's about actually doing something, action, versus small talk. You know what I mean? I think small talk's important too, but action. And so whatever, Mike, Jim, whatever, please email us anything we can do.
and I will start working on it. We'll put a list together of every organization that is correct, a good organization. I feel like that's something important, too, that we have the right organizations, because there's organizations out there that aren't correct. So I'd like to get a list together. And audience, please connect with us, too. You have an organization, fundraisers, places across the country, whatever we can do, we'll put a list together. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that would help. And I will go and
right.
do those 22 push-up, sit-up thingies.
I'm going to film it. Still going to film it.
Seriously. I'm going to do it. You're not filming it, but I will do it. You have my word. I will do it. I will do it. So I will. It'll be something. But that's the thing. Isn't that about awareness, Jim, at the end of the day? So it's 22 a day. That you said
absolutely.
When we
and that number is more. It's a lot more now. That number, they're really not even telling us exactly what it is, but it's on the rise all the time. Just like you said, unemployment and all these other things. Female suicide is up. Veteran suicide is up, and we're not really going to know those numbers until this is all done.
Well,
and every one of them is a shame.
I just heard about the amount of women, the sexual abuse going on. And I know a lot of times there was the women being in the force, in whatever force it was, Navy, military, Army, didn't matter, in the military because of the fear of that. And yet at the same time, why not have women fight if they can do it, right, and serve? And, we have women that are part of our Big Blend family who served in the military and gone on to live incredible lives and served. And I look at it now where there is abuse. So I think that has to be addressed, too, because that can lead to suicide. So, I think we have to kind of look at all the aspects in some way and help everybody we can, as individuals and in policy. So when someone wants to call Congress, do they just call their municipality, their mayor? Do you call? How did you start getting into like Congress and start talking to people?
Well, I'm blessed. We have our national congressman right here in the city of Tulare, Devin Nunes, and we have Devin Mathis too. And I'm great friends with both of them, and they're just like we talked earlier. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. They want to help veterans. They're amazing, and the more we start saying that, and the more we push together, because together we really can make a difference with this thing.
Absolutely.
We can't give up.
I love it. Thank you for joining us, Jim. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for give us a tour of the aircraft. That's amazing. And we were just saying at the beginning of the show, I think we were talking to Mike actually before we aired that you guys want to keep that aircraft out on Highway 99, even if there's a car wreck and a tire flies into one of them, just so that it's like, hello, this is what we're about.
It's been a little tough, as you know, but I want to give a little shout out to the guys that's been taking care of that. That's the B-17 Archaeology, and the gentleman's name is Greg Stathos. That's a group of guys. Some of them are military. Most of them aren't. They're families of people who have flown on B-17s, and they tour all over the country here in California. They volunteer to come, and that's why that airplane is so beautiful and shined up and totally restored. Those guys are amazing. They have another group called Team Shine, and that's the guys that come, and they'll polish on that thing for 10 days straight and not ask nothing from us. We go out there and barbecue for them and talk. But B-17 Archaeology, look them up and contribute. They're a wonderful, wonderful group.
Oh, awesome. Everyone, again, go look up 22 Everyday Push-Up Challenge. Come on, you guys. If I'm going to do it, you sure as heck can do it. Seriously. Seriously. And, know that I'm going to end up doing this in a national park in front of people or in a rest area somewhere outside a bathroom.
Lisa, I'll bet you I can do 22 before you do 22.
Go ahead. I think the more the merrier. That's the thing. It's about awareness. And 22, and sadly the number going up, let's combat it as best we can as, just everyone come together, and let's see what we can do about shining light on these programs. So, Jim, in closing, if everyone goes to AMVETs, is there an AMVET, like, in every town? Or
no, not every town, but just about. You can, just Google AMVETs, and you'll find one in your neighborhood. And remember, next time you come through here, I got the keys to that 17 now, and we're going to go inside, and you can take your pictures, and you can sit behind the steering wheel of that thing. It's beautiful inside out.
That's cool. And Mike, when we come to Minnesota, we want to go in a tank.
Yeah. Can you show us around a tank?
A tank and a bomber.
I can show you where the nearest one is.
Oh,
cool.
You won't let us in one. You can't. I can't do that. That's not. But I'll go in the bomber too. But this is the thing. Like, to me, I love that these planes don't end up in a boneyard. I had a friend that worked on planes that did go in a boneyard and try to salvage them, and worked on the military planes in Tucson. Tucson has a bone. And Mike, we've talked about that on the shows with the F-14s and stuff. Some of them just that's it. They're done. And they live this legacy of battle, and then that's it. Or they get traded out to a different country that you would not believe who they sent them to. So when, organizations come together, like what Jim's got, you're saving this history. And Jim, you were saying it's going to be crushed beer cans, if you guys didn't save some of these planes,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome what you're doing. So everyone, thank you so much. Everyone, 22 Everyday Push-Up Challenge. There's a Facebook page. Go to amvets.org. Jim, any other Facebook website pages people should know?
Mine, yes. Get on mine. You can see me do it every day.
Okay.
Cool.
Jim Pidgeon, Facebook.
Pidgeon. Okay. And what about your music? How do people get your music?
You can see many of my songs on there. I'll sing you guys a song tomorrow, and I'll sing you "Grandpa Cried" on tomorrow. My first thing to do in the morning. You'll get to hear it live.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, for sitting in and co-hosting, and congrats on Days of Fury. That's out now, your latest book. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, ladies. It is always a pleasure. And, Jim, it was a pleasure meeting you as well.
The pleasure is mine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you both for your service and everything and coming on our shows. I really appreciate it. And we're going to close with a song called Velocity. It's a nice takeout of this both conversations. We've covered a lot of ground today. I want to thank our audience, as always, for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Here it is, Velocity. This is from Misha Shalhaas, amazing guitarist out of Joshua Tree, California. You can keep up with him at mishamusic.com. But here it is, Velocity, because I just felt like airplanes have velocity. Enjoy. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.